The Golden Age had ended, and the realm was, once again, divided. The northern dynasties struggled to maintain control, while the southern kingdoms remained isolated. But one man, rising through military brilliance, would learn from the past. Recognizing that the pen can be mightier than the sword, he would establish a new system, one that would leave a lasting mark on Eastern history. Hello, and welcome to Impactful Moments, where we explore some of the most, you guessed it, impactful moments in human history. If history is your thing or you simply enjoy learning new topics, please consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us to continue creating captivating, impactful historical content. In this video, we will discuss the rise of the Song Dynasty, a civilization that reached unprecedented heights in culture, governance, and innovation. For centuries, China oscillated between periods of centralized unification and chaotic fragmentation. After the Qin first unified the land in 221 BCE, the Han Dynasty expanded and solidified imperial rule, laying the groundwork for Chinese statecraft. But, following its collapse, the empire shattered again, plunging into centuries of division until the Sui Dynasty briefly reunited the realm in the 6th century. The Tang Dynasty then took the mantle and ushered in what is often seen as China's Golden Age, a time of territorial expansion, economic prosperity, and cultural flourishing. Yet even the Tang could not escape the cycle. In the late 9th century, internal corruption, natural disasters, and widespread rebellion, particularly the devastating Anlushan Rebellion in the 8th century and later Huangchao Rebellion, weakened the imperial court and empowered local warlords, fracturing the empire once more. These cycles between long stretches of unity under powerful dynasties and chaotic periods of fragmentation repeated with remarkable consistency. A golden age gives way to corruption or overextension, the dynasty collapses, and ambitious warlords carve up the remains until a new leader manages to stitch it back together. The century following the fall of the Tang in 907 CE was no exception. Known as the 5 Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms, it was a time marked by constant warfare, betrayal, and ambition. 5 dynasties rose and fell rapidly in the north, sometimes lasting only a few years. Palace coups, poisonings, and shifting military loyalties marked the period's eventual instability, keeping power perpetually in flux. In the south, rival kingdoms maintained uneasy independence, focused more on survival than on reunification. Yet, even amid this turmoil, the groundwork was quietly being laid for a dynasty that would not only reunify China, but redefine the very nature of imperial authority. The last of the 5 dynasties, the later Zhao, saw competent rulers who increased the dynasty's wealth and, under Emperor Chai Rong, even showed legitimate promise of reunifying the realm. However, Chai's death in 959 left Chai Zongxin, just 6 years old, as the emperor. A joint force of Khitan-led Liao and northern Han troops prepared to invade, hoping to capitalize on the court's instability and the emperor's youth. Zhao Kuangyin, a respected commander whose influence greatly grew under Chai Rong, was sent north to repel that threat. When Zhao and his troops stopped to rest at Chengxiao, near the capital of Kaifeng, his loyal soldiers, uneasy about following a 6-year-old emperor, mutinied against the dynasty and declared him emperor. Whether this was orchestrated by Zhao or caught him by surprise remains unclear, but legends claim that royal yellow robes were forced onto him, possibly while he was drunk, and the army marched on the capital. Zhao is said to have threatened his men by punishment of death if they dared loot the city or harm its inhabitants. In stark departure from China's previous dynastic transitions, the mutiny and Zhao's installation as emperor in February 960 were practically bloodless. Zhao declared himself Emperor Taizu of Song, and a new dynasty had begun, one that would not nearly follow in the path of its 5 short dynastic predecessors. Zhao's actions following his declaration as emperor were highly unconventional. Rather than launching an immediate campaign of military conquest, as previous unifiers had done, he chose a path of calculated restraint. Drawing from the failures of previous regimes, where military commanders amassed too much power and eventually turned against the state, Zhao took deliberate steps to weaken the military's political influence. He offered high-ranking officers generous pensions and comfortable retirements, persuading them to step down peacefully. This not only removed potential threats, but also transitioned power away from the battlefield and back into the hands of the central government. Yet diplomacy alone did not reunify China. When persuasion failed, Zhao was willing to deploy force, but always with precision. His campaigns emphasized discipline and order, and when southern kingdoms surrendered, he spared their cities from looting and violence. One by one, the 10 kingdoms of the south submitted to his rule, swayed by a mixture of political tact and military strength. The Song Dynasty steadily expanded its control, and unification seemed within reach. But before he could complete his mission, Emperor Taizu fell ill and died in 976. The circumstances of his death remain a mystery. Official accounts claim that on his deathbed, Taizu honored a request from his mother, Empress Dowager Du, to pass the throne to his younger brother, Zhao Kuangyi. Yet other accounts suggest that Kuangyi may have orchestrated his brother's death to seize the throne for himself. The convenient and suspicious death of Taizu's sons soon after, who might have challenged this succession, only fueled speculation. Regardless, Zhao Kuangyi, now Emperor Taizong, took control of the dynasty and completed what his brother had started. Within 3 years, he subdued the final holdout kingdoms, and China was, once again, under a single centralized rule. Unlike many of the great empires of its time, the Song was not defined by military conquests or territorial dominance. An empire, like that of its Abbasid Muslim contemporaries to the west, prized knowledge over warfare and innovation over expansion. The Song court invested heavily in bureaucracy, education, and economic infrastructure, building a government and society where scholars, not soldiers, held the highest prestige. This emphasis on intellectualism and civil governance brought about a remarkable era of advancement. Some historians even describe the Song as a period of early industrial revolution, centuries ahead of its time. Yet, for all its brilliance, the Song's greatest strength was also its weakness. While the empire cultivated a flourishing internal civilization, it struggled to defend its borders. Repeated clashes with the steppe culture rivals such as the Khitans and the Jurchens in the north and the Dai Viet in the south ended in humiliating defeats, costly concessions, or both. Eventually, the Jurchen-led Jin dynasty seized control of northern China in 1127, forcing the Song court to retreat south, reshaping the empire into what would become known as the Southern Song. Still, the Song's legacy wasn't forged on the battlefield. It would live on in the systems, technologies, and ideas that would echo through history. With the rise of the Song dynasty came an immediate shift in daily life, especially in the wealthier south. Political stability and state-backed innovation led to rapid population growth and urban expansion. Cities like Kaifeng and later Hangzhou became cosmopolitan, vibrant hubs where markets, workshops, theaters, and tea houses bustled with activity and international populations. Public festivals filled the streets with music, fireworks, and acrobats, offering a rare space where people from different classes mingled. For many, especially in the growing middle class, life became more secure, more connected, and culturally rich. These changes were underpinned by the government's prioritization of civil over military affairs. Success shifted away from status and toward ability, as the empire put greater emphasis on civil examinations as a method of promoting personal growth. Agricultural reforms, most notably the introduction of fast-ripening champa rice, boosted food production, leading to exceptional population growth. It's estimated that by the 11th century, China may have had supported 90 million people, with over 10 cities surpassing 1 million inhabitants, staggering figures for a pre-modern world. Innovations in printing, navigation, and manufacturing spread practical knowledge and goods across the empire, raising literacy and improving the quality of life. At the same time, the intellectual world was reshaped by the revival of Confucian thought, now reimagined as Neo-Confucianism. Blending classical ethics with metaphysics, it offered a renewed sense of order in a society experiencing rapid change. Promoted by scholars like Zhao Dunyi and later Zhu Zi, it would soon become the moral backbone of both governance and education. While the effects were most deeply felt within China, the Song's cultural and economic influence quickly spread outward. Tributary states like Goryeo and Dai Viet adopted elements of Neo-Confucian ideology and Song administrative models. Meanwhile, Chinese goods and technologies, porcelain, printed texts, and navigational tools circulated through trade networks from Southeast Asia to the Islamic world, quietly shaping the trajectory of neighboring civilizations. The Song dynasty's impact didn't end with its borders or its fall. In many ways, it laid the intellectual and technological groundwork for the modern world. Innovations like movable type printing, which arguably may have planted the seeds for the Gutenberg press centuries later, and the expanded use of gunpowder not only transformed life in China, but eventually influenced civilizations far beyond. The magnetic compass, long used in China for aligning energies in feng shui, was redefined during the Song into a reliable navigation tool, particularly for maritime travel. One especially transformative development was the widespread adoption of government-issued banknotes, an early form of paper currency that introduced the idea of money as a symbol of value rather than intrinsic worth, a concept that still underpins modern economies. As trade networks grew, the rhythms of daily life evolved. Markets, which traditionally closed at sundown, began staying open late to meet growing demand. These night markets offered not just goods, but food, performances, and social interactions after dark. Though they first appeared during the Tang Dynasty, they were normalized under the Song. Their legacy is still felt today in the bustling Chinatown night markets in cities from Taipei to San Francisco and across the global Asian diaspora. The Song's intellectual and commercial sophistication may have also had indirect effects well beyond East Asia. Though the dynasty had already declined by the time of Marco Polo's travels, his vivid accounts of the Chinese infrastructure, technologies, and cultural refinement, much of it rooted in Song-era achievements, captured the European imagination. Historians argue that his writings, while not necessarily directly linked, helped inspire the spirit of inquiry that fueled the European Renaissance and the Age of Exploration. The Song dynasty may not have been defined by conquest, but its legacy shaped the heart of China for centuries. Its advanced bureaucracy championed merit and fostered a cultural golden age that became the benchmark for future dynasties. Even after its fall, brought not necessarily by internal decay, but by the relentless expansion of the Mongol Empire, the imprint of the Song endured. The Mongols may have ruled under a different name, but they inherited the technologies, scholarship, and sophisticated governments the Song had perfected, even if it was ultimately consumed by the rising Mongol storm from the north. I hope you enjoyed this video and found this period in history both informative and enlightening. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and I hope you can join us for another video. Thanks for watching.